I am Dr. Marcia Sirota, and I want to tell you about one of my upcoming Conversations with Dr. Sirota events. It's going to be held on Thursday, June 23rd at 12:30, and it's about coming together and having a real conversation about important issues that are really on your mind these days. And with the new bill in Ontario about disconnecting from the workplace, I thought it would be really great for us to have a conversation about, are you having difficulty disconnecting from the workplace? Are you feeling like you're working too much? Are you feeling like you're overburdened and starting to get burnt out? You know, because we have so much technology, we seem to be constantly attached to our workplace. And even though initially technology was made to give us more time off work, it seems to be making us have more time on work. So let's get together and have a real conversation where everybody gets to express their point of view and to ask questions and find out, if other people are also experiencing the same things as you are. You can sign up through my newsletter or on all my social media apps, and I look forward to seeing you there. Again, it's Thursday, June 23rd at 12:30. We're going to be talking about disconnecting from the workplace, and are you having difficulty doing that? Hi, I'm Dr. Marcia Sirota, and today I want to talk about disconnecting from the workplace, and are you having difficulty doing that? So there's this new bill that's come out in Ontario about disconnecting from the workplace, which is supposed to give workers rights to not have their phones on, their emails on, their texting on all through the weekend and the evenings, and so that they can get a break away from work. Now, people are saying that this is great in theory, but it's going to be interesting to watch how it all plays out in practice, because can they enforce it, and how can most workers benefit from it? And I was thinking about this because I see a lot of patients who have burnout from overwork and from not being able to disconnect from the workplace. And in fact, even in my ordinary life, I'm talking to people who are experiencing difficulties disconnecting from the workplace. The other day, I got a new cell phone for my office, and I was talking to the person in the store who was helping me set it up. And we were talking about disconnecting from the workplace. And he said, "Oh no, I can never disconnect. I'm on call 24/7. And then I was also listening to the radio the other day on CBC, and they were having a lot of guests talking about disconnecting from the workplace, and they had people calling in. And there was a fellow who was a grocery store manager who said that he never disconnects from the workplace because there's always some type of emergency that he needs to cover for. So there are many, many jobs in which it's very difficult to disconnect from the workplace. Certainly a lot of healthcare professionals have difficulty disconnecting from the workplace. My office phone is on 24/7, 365 days of the year, because in case one of my patients has an emergency, I need to know, and I might not pick up the phone, but I'll definitely pick up the call within 24 hours and get back to them, because I don't want anything bad happening. So there are certainly many jobs in which disconnecting from the workplace is a wonderful theory, but very difficult to have in practice. And so what happens though when we cannot disconnect from the workplace? What happens when we're always on call, we're always responsible for the workplace and for our work tasks? Well, it can lead to burnout. And burnout is when we become exhausted, both physically, emotionally, and mentally, and also morally. We just become depleted. Our life energy gets sucked out of us, and we just have nothing more to give. And then we shut down and we stop and we can't go any further. And sometimes that means that we can no longer perform our function. I have been working with an organization called the Physician Health Program, and I see doctors, either doctors in training or doctors who are in full practice, who are experiencing any type of mental health issues. And some of the doctors I've seen have experienced burnout. I've also spoken to teachers, nurses, and other health professionals in my general practice who have experienced burnout. And it's really sad, because some of these people had to stop work prematurely because they simply could not continue. They had nothing more to give, and when they imagined going back, they became completely overwhelmed, or when they tried to go back, they simply could not do it. So burnout means that we can no longer function, and sometimes that's a permanent thing. Sometimes it's temporary, and after some rest and some healing, we can go back to our position, whatever that was. But sometimes because it's so profound, the burnout, that we no longer can go back to that, and we have to retire or find something else to do that is less stressful, less taxing on our system, that perhaps gives us different stresses or has different challenges, so that different parts of us are demanded from, and we don't need to exercise the same old muscles that are exhausted. So burnout is really a very big problem these days. A lot of people are experiencing it. I see people in every walk of life in my assessments that I do for independent psychiatric examinations. And there's a lot of people who are experiencing burnout for all different reasons. Burnout can also come when people are having difficulties dealing with the kinds of decisions being made in their workplace. If the decisions being made go against these people's personal values, then it can become a disconnect, and that can lead to an emotional overwhelm, which leads to burnout. There's another reason why people get burnt out, and it's not from overwork, but it's from bullying. It's when people are being mistreated, pushed around, abused, manipulated, tricked, their ideas are stolen, they're not given credit for their work, they're not getting the promotions they deserve. All of those things can be bullying, and all of that can also lead to burnout. So disconnecting from the workplace leads to burnout, but burnout also can be caused by other things. So let's get back though to disconnecting from the workplace. Another thing that not being able to disconnect from the workplace results in is that we don't have a good work-life balance, and we don't have a good quality of life in our personal life. Our relationships suffer, our family life suffers, our children can grow up without knowing us, our partner becomes dissatisfied with us because they never spent enough time with us, our friends, forget our face, forget our name because they never see us, we're never at the family and friend gatherings. And so it can be very, very lonely. And what happens sometimes for people when they can't disconnect from work is that they become kind of addicted to work, because work is the only thing they have. And so it becomes the only source of satisfaction. And then they start working and working and working, and it releases dopamine in their brain, which makes them crave more of that same kind of stimulation. So the more they work, the more they crave working, and it's like any other addiction. And so the more they work. And so then again, their family and their friends don't get to see them, and all they have is work. And it's briefly satisfying because dopamine gives you a very temporary flood of positive emotion, but then you go right back to craving the same activity, which is overworking, and back in that vicious circle where you're not free, and your loved ones are missing you, and you are on some level missing them. So not being able to disconnect from work can make you into a workaholic, because you become caught up in work as though it's the only thing you have. And also it can be the only thing that you identify with. Your whole identity can be wrapped up in your work. So your sense of self, your sense of accomplishment, your sense of success all gets wrapped up in your work, as opposed to it being balanced between a number of different things, including your family, your community, your work, and your hobbies. Now it only becomes work. So being able to disconnect from work helps you find that balance, that work-life balance, where you can have friends, family, pastimes, and your work. You're not living to work, you're working to live, so that you're working to make a living, have some success and some satisfaction, but you're not obsessed with work, you're not consumed with work, and you're certainly able to disconnect from work. Another thing that happens when you can't disconnect from work is that it's very hard to see that there might be other jobs out there that you can do, and that you can do well. When you're caught up in this one job and you're just doing it 24/7, it becomes so pervasive in your mind that it's very hard to imagine doing anything else, and not even realizing that you could have a job where you're working 40 hours a week as opposed to 70 hours a week, and be even more happy, more satisfied, and even maybe receiving the same pay or better pay. So when you get caught up in a job that you're never disconnected from, it's very hard to imagine having a different kind of job that might be much better for you and certainly more healthy for you. So we need to disconnect from our jobs. And even if the legislation doesn't affect you, because it certainly doesn't affect certain managers, it doesn't affect people in healthcare. There's a lot of people who are not going to benefit from this new legislation. So if you're one of those people who struggles to disconnect from work, you're going to have to find a way to do it on your own or by talking to the people who you work with and figuring out some way to have some more time for yourself, for your family, for your pastimes, to get out in nature and go for a bike ride or a jog or a walk, to take your dog for a walk, to pat your cat, to spend time with your kids, to spend time with your life partner or the person you're dating, to have a life and not just have a job that is your life. So it's important that you very consciously and deliberately think about how consumed you are with work and how connected you are to work. And are there places that you can disconnect? Can you disconnect in the evenings? Can you disconnect on the weekends? How many days off can you get, realistically? And how can you take vacation time? It's so important to disconnect from work and to remember that you're a person, not just a worker, and that you're a human being, not a human doing. And you need that downtime. You need that variation in the things that you do to have a balanced and fulfilling and peaceful life. So be conscious. Think about how you can disconnect from work. And maybe, your employer doesn't expect you to be there 24/7 and you're just doing it because you're a people pleaser and you're hoping that they'll approve of you more. Or maybe you're looking for that promotion and you're thinking that killing yourself working that hard is going to get it for you. Maybe it's not worth it. So maybe your workplace is not demanding the level of commitment that you're putting in, and you need to take a little step back and find that balance between being seen as a good worker and sacrificing everything in your life for something that may or may not come, for a satisfaction that might not come, for a raise that might not come, for a promotion that might not come. And even if they do come, is it worth it to give up everything else for those things? And that's really an important thing to think about. Are the sacrifices that you're making really worth it? Are the sacrifices of giving up your family and your friends and your pastimes and your peace time, are they worth it for those goals that you have around work? So think about how you can disconnect from work, either by taking advantage of this new legislation or by very consciously and deliberately carving out some time away from work for yourself so that you can have a really rich and balanced existence. Because again, like I said, we should not live to work, we should work to live, and our jobs should be fulfilling and satisfying, but we should have other ways to be fulfilled and satisfied, including our loved ones and our pastimes, so we can have a full life. I'm Dr. Marcia Sirota. Today I've been talking about, are you having difficulty disconnecting from the workplace? Please stay tuned for more topics on mental health and wellness. I'll be speaking to you real soon.